also didn't want to get stuck in the Atlanta airport the other day. And that went down.
Right.
And we've had a lot of interesting people send in theories on this. And there's one floating around that's the best to me.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull it up, and it was on 4chan, because we talked about this on a previous episode. Right. How one plane landed during the power outage in Atlanta, and
took off.
One plane landed and took off.
Okay.
No other planes did, and they're saying they're saying this outage was created to get this cargo plane in and out of this airport. This is according to 4chan. The plane in question, I'm gonna read it off here, is a 4X ICB. It's a cargo plane that arrived in Atlanta from Mexico City at 1 p.m., which is almost to the exact second that the time that the power went out.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I remember looking at my watch. I want to say it was like 12:55, somewhere in there. So that's correct. This plane then went on to leave for its next destination at 6:27 p.m., right in the middle of the blackout. There is an official record indicating that this flight did come in. Came in at 12:56. The cargo plane that's in question is owned by Cal Cargo Airlines. It is a Jewish-owned company based out of Israel who specializes in the transportation of nonstop cargo such as live animals and dangerous goods. And those dangerous goods are including guns, warheads, things of that nature, and also animals.
Is that private, though?
I'd have a hard time thinking, no, this is a cargo plane. Like, cargo planes come in and out of all the major airports. Mm-hmm. It's just at a separate terminal and a separate gig. The company's leadership has ties to Israeli government, and I don't know. I want to lean towards something like this, to be honest with you, and kind of believe in it, because when we were evacuated and had to go out onto the tarmac, we saw a bunch of FBI agents pull up.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
kind of like, oh shit.
Yeah, and we didn't know what the fuck was going on. And we asked, several employees in the airport, is this a terrorist attack? And they didn't have an answer for us. And then there was a message playing over the intercom that just said, we have an unidentified emergency. We're working on trying to contain it. And we didn't know what was going on. The employees didn't know what was going on, like genuinely, because these were people who didn't want to fucking be there anyways. So
one of the guys was like, I'm stuck out here as much as you are. And it's like, well, you're getting paid. You live here.
Yeah.
This is your job.
Yeah.
It's actually not the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know you're in the cold too with a jacket on.
And my, because my other theory behind this, I didn't hear this story. Once I heard this story, I was like, all right, cool. Israel obviously has been going through some shit after, Jerusalem was named the capital. There's been some bombs, some shit lobbed at them. Maybe they were loading up and needed some weapons or nukes or whatever it is. I don't know. It's certainly plausible. So I'm not gonna to rule it out. My first initial thought, by the way, which I didn't talk about, what I thought it was going on at the time was a test against terrorism.
Somebody said that. Someone else said that too.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I thought too, of like, there's a moment where you're out there under fucking rescue blankets and shit with 60,000 people on a tarmac and it's raining, and you're like, man, I remember looking around at how vast it was and how many people there were out there. And I was like, if you were going to kill a bunch of people or try to blow up an airport, like this is the blueprint for it right here. Mm-hmm. And what was it a test with our government to say, okay, here's the busiest airport in the world. Are we prepared for something like this to happen and go down without incident or with people getting out of there safely? Mm-hmm. And my answer is no. I don't think they were prepared at all.
No.
We got those tram cars came and got us an hour in, an hour and a half in, somewhere in there.
Of standing outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was longer. I don't know, 2 hours.
Yeah.
But, you know, they just kept sending a couple shuttles at a time to get people out of there to another terminal. Then we got to the opening terminal and we're trying to get out. And, you know, they had agreed to let people out of the airport, which initially they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying, no, everybody's got to stay here inside the terminals. And then they said, okay, no, we're going to let you guys out. And you're allowed to call anybody or get relatives or try to get cabs or Ubers. No, nobody's cell phone was working and the internet was out. Everything was knocked out. So then you had 60,000 people outside the main entrance of the airport. If you were going to, you know, have an act of terrorism, we were 60,000 sitting ducks outside that fucking thing with nowhere to go. And either you're going to trample everybody else as soon as shots start firing or bombs start going off or whatever it is, or you're just all going to get nuked in a row there. And when I really sat back and looked at it, I was like, this could be somebody either creating a blueprint or trying to prevent it, like our own government, of saying this is the best test case you could ever get. Right over the holidays, at the world's busiest airport, let's see what this is really like if we're prepared for something like this. So the 4chan thing is super interesting, though. Like when I saw it, I was like, fuck. Because they do have a record of this flight. So it's not like this was an invisible flight that didn't. And why is a cargo plane from Mexico City to Israel that fucking important?
Well, they carry live cargo, right?
Well, they can. It's in this one instance you could carry live animals. But I will say this, going in and out of Atlanta, there was 1 million live animals on there. So unless you're shipping fucking 80, you know, Kentucky Derby horses, and you paid off the government, you know, $20 million to get your plane out of there, no live animal or you know, would make sense going all the way to Israel. Right. Like, what's that going to matter? I bought a dog online. And it got shipped on a cargo plane to Los Angeles, and I had to go to the cargo to pick it up. And when I got it, there was 100 animals in that fucking thing. Like, so what would have mattered? What was the importance of that? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Right. There's a bunch of cargo planes filled with animals, so I'm gonna check that off. Okay. And I like the theory that people are presenting from this 4chan thing. I like it a lot because I think that's totally plausible. But we'll see. We'll see if anybody ever talks about it. I think it'll be like the Stephen Paddock thing, and we don't hear another fucking word about it. And that's it. And it was just one weird day in everybody's lives. Mm-hmm. And we move on, and that'll be it.
And then they bomb the fucking airport, and they're like, oh, yeah, they did a dry run.
Yeah, they did a fucking dry run.
We were there for the dry run.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.